We are gathering both virtually and in person as one connected community. I am Jameson Brewer, and my pronouns are he, him. I'll be your worship leader for this morning's service, and I'm joined by Reverend Julie Brock and our guest musician, Brendan Johnson. If you are a visitor online and would like Northwest to stay in touch with you, please fill out the visitor form appearing in the chat box. If you are visiting with us in person, you can fill out the visitor sign-in form, and it's in the atrium. Please greet your neighbors with a wave from wherever you are.
Y'all, it's Jameson's first time as worship leader. What do you think? Folks, we have a few announcements I'd like to share with you. You'll find more information about Northwest in the weekly newsletter and on our website. But here are a few things I'd like to highlight. Choir has restarted. It is every Saturday morning here at Northwest. Show up if you are interested, 10 a.m. on Saturday morning. If you have questions, see me after service and I will get you in touch with Todd. Or if you know Todd, you can contact him directly. The Northwest UU Service Auction website is open. There are so many people working very hard on this, so please, you can register and bid and make a cash donation. You can make an in-kind donation for the silent auction board item, and of course, there is an exciting live auction. See Ariana or Martha during coffee hour. Wait, ladies, keep your hands up so people know who you are. Mark your calendar for Saturday, November 2nd at 4 p.m. for a fabulous and fun live auction. And you are all invited to Obastom Orchards for apple picking Saturday, September 28th, so 6 days from now at 2 p.m. This is in Northville. If you're interested or have questions, please contact Eva. All right, so before we settle into the prelude, before we begin our prelude, let's all take a deep breath and settle into a time of worship together.
The flaming chalice is a symbol of our faith. We light it knowing this morning that many other Unitarian Universalist congregations across this land and around the world are doing the same. We light our chalice with words from Northwest UU's mission statement. Please repeat after me. We light this flame to grow in spirit, knowledge, and action.
We light this flame to grow in spirit, knowledge, and action.
Accept and challenge one another.
Accept and challenge one another.
To support each other in times of joy and need.
To support each other in times of joy and need. And each week we also offer this land acknowledgement. We honor and pay our respects to the land on which we live and work, which was violently stolen through colonialism, genocide, and the forced removal of its traditional stewards. These stewards are the Anishinaabe, the Council of Three Fires, which include the Ottawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi, also known as the Ottawa, Chippewa, and Potawatomi tribes. We also acknowledge the people of African descent who were forcibly removed from their land and separated from their families through kidnapping and enslavement. We pay reverence and respect to them for building this country's infrastructure and economy with no compensation or reparations to date. I invite you further into a spirit of worship by rising in body and or spirit and singing number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. Brooklyn is going to accompany us on the violin. She wants to, it's fine, Trina.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. It is good to see you this morning. I would like to invite all the children who are not up at the front to come up to the front of the room, if you want to. Do you want to, Emma? No? Okay. We're going to have a story today that I memorized. So it's called, and I'm working on it. This is a Greek mythology, and it's called Philemon and Bacchus. So, let's go back many years ago, long, long ago. And there was this couple named Philemon and Bacchus, and they were very, very simple people. and they didn't have a lot of money. They didn't have a big house. They had a very simple life, but they were very um, like noble, very, very virtuous, very hospitable people. And King Jupiter wanted to test them. And he decided, you want to be King Jupiter? Okay, come on up. He decided he was going to get his little sidekick, Mercury, who's you want to be Mercury? You can be Mercury. Oh, you don't have to be. A messenger. And they were going to go down to Earth and disguise themselves as travelers. And they were going to see if the human race was really all that hospitable. So they did. They came down to Earth as travelers. Put on your cloak, get ready to go. All right. So here comes Jupiter, and he's knocking on doors, he's going to neighbors' houses, and everybody's like, no, you can't come in. Travelers are not welcome here. But he got to Philemon and Bacchus's house, and they opened the door and welcomed the travelers in. And so in came the travelers, and they had a spread for them. They had some Mediterranean foods. Anybody know any Mediterranean foods that they might have served? Tomatoes. What else? Bananas, maybe. How about some olives? Ooh, grape leaves. Hummus. One other thing, yeah?
Doritos.
Oh, Doritos, absolutely. And Lucky Charms, right? And they served them a big feast with lots of wine, and the wine kept going and going and going. And then they served them a big goose. But unfortunately, the goose ran away, and they were trying to catch the goose. And it fell right into Jupiter's lap, and he became undisguised as Jupiter, and so they revealed themselves to Bacchus and Philemon, and they said, okay, I'm a god. I'm actually here to see if you were hospitable, and you were hospitable. You were so hospitable to us. Do you know what hospitable means? Brooklyn, do you know what it means? No? It means that you're welcoming to somebody into your home, and you're a good host. So anyway, then the god said, well, what's your wish? And Philemon and Bacchus said, well, our wish is that we become priests of the temple. And so that's what they did. They became priests of the temple. And when they died, there was a beautiful tree that came up where they died. Beautiful tree. And it was like intertwined and everything. It's beautiful. So what do you think of the moral of the story is? What's the takeaway? What do we learn from this story?
That he was called, and yeah,
He was called?
God.
Oh, he was God. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Anything else that we learned from the story? What do you think, Yona? You told me in the car.
I think maybe like sharing like their home with like someone that they like don't even have a clue on who it is.
So they were really welcoming and inviting, and they didn't even know who these people were. And Annika, did you want to say anything, or are you good? You good? No, I would say Annika, but yeah. All right. So the moral of the story is that we can be very welcoming and hospitable, and sometimes we get visitors that we don't even know how great they are until they undisguise themselves. Okay, thank you. Now we're going to do Carry the Flame. I'm gonna go up. So the children are going to carry the flame to their classes now, and Brandon's going to play for us.
May your mind be open to new learning. May your lips bring truth into the wood. May your heart know love and your hands know the work of justice as you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace.
This month's Northwest UU is going to share its plate with Southfield Emergency Needs Fund. Their goal is to help residents overcome personal hurdles to achieve a satisfying and productive quality of life. Human Services is a division of Southfield Community Relations. All undesignated donations will be split between Southfield Emergency Needs Fund and our congregation. You can give in a variety of ways that are now visible on your screen. For those here in person, we will pass a collection basket. It's coming around for checks and cash. We honor your generosity by committing to ensure that our collective resources do a greater good for ourselves and our world than any could have done individually.
Hi, I'm Linda Morris, and I'm a member of Northwest Pastoral Care Committee. I want to remind you that anyone needing the support of our community can reach out to our Minister of Pastoral Care, Reverend Teresa Rolk, in the weekly drop-in Zoom room, or in one-on-one an appointment by emailing pastoralcare@northwestuu.org. If you need that, just come up and I'll tell you. The collective cares of our community are recorded in our Book of Joys and Sorrows, which is on that cabinet outside before you come in, that red cabinet near the name tags. If you would like to submit a joy or a sorrow virtually, please email pastoralcare@nwuu.org. When I announce your name, although I think the people aren't in here, but if you're here, raise your hand when I announce your name. Oh, no, 2 people. This is from last week. We didn't read it. Don and Barbara Wallace. Are you in here? There they are. Okay. Both of our this is a joy. It's a good thing. Both of our birthdays are this week. Don on the 19th and Barbara on the 22nd. Isn't that today? Oh, we'll have to sing happy birthday.
Brenda, do you know the song?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Barbara. Happy birthday to you. How old are, I don't have to sing how old because that's the next part of this joy and sorrow. We are 174 years old together. That's something else, huh? Okay, this is a sorrow, and Barbara Carney's not with us here, so I'm reading this for her. Asking for prayers for my neighbor whose partner of 20 years, Keith Couchy, passed away September 18th. Keith was my neighbor for 30 years. He was like a brother to me. Barbara's had sort of a hard time recently, so you might want to reach out to her. Jim Moore, this is currently going on. My 11-year-old stepson is on his way to the ER in Detroit because of severe breathing issues. This is very frightening. For these and joys and sorrows that are held in the silent sanctuary of our hearts, I offer this prayer. Sources of radiance and resilience, keep watch with those who work or watch or weep this night. May the suffering be soothed. May the sick be tended. May the weary find rest. May the dying and those who love them find peace. May the joyous be shielded. And may all know that we are surrounded in a love that is with us always, a web that connects us to all that exists. That's the end of me. And then please, we're going to sing, right? Oh, we're going to be quiet. I'm sorry. I blew it. Okay. Could you all join us in singing Spirit of Life, please?
Every year in June, there is a collection of Unitarian Universalists that get together at our General Assembly. And each congregation sends a couple of delegates to General Assembly to vote on the business of the wider denomination. And then they come back and they tell their congregations what happened. Well, Northwest's two delegates decided that this year, General Assembly brought with it a whole lot of change. And neither one of them felt good and comfortable talking about it. So one of the delegates from UU Detroit, Lorelei Muniz, offered to come and speak to Northwest about the changes and give you an update about what happened at a General Assembly. So please welcome Lorelei.
Thank you. It's good to be with you this morning. Can anybody raise their hand if they've been to GA? Oh, good. Most of you, but not all of you, or some of you, but not all of you. I am brand new to UU, like 2.5 years fresh. So I didn't know what at all to expect at GA. And this year it was held virtually. And which was great because it afforded greater accessibility and participation, including me. So all 50 states were represented, plus Washington, D.C., and there were about 2,700 delegates from about 730 congregations around the country. In a total, there were about 3,400 attendees. And the most consequential order of business was to vote on the revisions to Article 2 bylaws, which outline the UUA principles and purpose. The UUA's bylaws mandate a regular revision process of its core religious language every 15 years. And this section of our bylaws has been revised a number of times over the course of UUA's history, but the last wholesale revision took place in 1987. And so much has changed in both our society and our congregations in the interim. And these are the words of Carrie McDonald, the UUA's executive vice president. And we're pleased by the thoughtfulness and care UU's brought to this process. This new language honors the principles and traditions of the UU's while allowing us to evolve as a faith. 2/3 delegates were required to pass the new language, and 80% of the delegates voted in favor. This is a historic moment for Unitarian Universalism as we move our living tradition forward to focus on shared values that help promote liberation, radical inclusion, and communal care, both within our church and across society, said Reverend Dr. Sophia Bentecourt, the UUA's president. So as you may remember, the principles are now evolving into shared values where love is at the center, and there are 6 values surrounding that: interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, and justice. And each comes with a value statement and kind of a associated accountability statement. So for example, pluralism. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. So many people feel most comfortable with the 8 principles, and my fellow delegate from First UU, Jenny Teed, is a lifelong First UU, and she reminds us that the 8 principles aren't going anywhere. They are still printed in the front of our hymnals, and we can access them anytime we feel we need to, because sometimes we have the capacity for complexity and nuance that these new values present, and sometimes we just need to hang on to something that is comfortable and familiar. So also at GA, there was voting on actions of immediate witness. Voting on actions of immediate witness was also among the business conducted at GA 2024. UU delegates voted for social justice resolutions that support the need of humanitarian work to address climate change, solidarity with Palestinians, and centering love amid the ongoing impact of COVID-19 pandemic. Delegates also adopted a responsive resolution that calls for immediate release of all Hamas-held hostages. So that is kind of a summary of the business aspect of GA. I also wanted to share a little bit of my experience participating in the workshops. I went to about a dozen lectures, webinars, and meetings, And the social justice component of UUism really leaped out at me. I heard talks from trans activists, disability justice activists, talks on Black liberation, fat liberation, and it was all echoing the same thing. These movements are all interconnected because we are all interconnected. And Fannie Lou Hamer's quote really came to life for me, that nobody's free until everybody's free. Everybody wants to be able to contribute their unique gifts, to have access, to have agency, to belong to a community, and to be invited in. And it was really inspiring to be part of a national church collective that says that we can be incubators for collective liberation right here in our own sanctuaries. Thank you.
I just want to give mad props to Lorelei because she found out she was doing that by herself and wrote in the other person's part like 5 minutes ago. So thank you, Lorelei. Folks, would you join me in rising in body and our spirit and singing number 1 in your hymnal, May Nothing Evil Cross This Door. Please be seated. Hey, Michael, I'm gonna either need a cordless mic or for this one to work. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. We came in this morning and none of this would turn on. So I was distracted. We were distracted in getting the tech set up. But Michael's a genius and he fixed it. That also meant that you just had to wait 30 seconds for him to get a microphone together. But it only took him like 30 seconds. I know, right? Folks, can I confess something to you? I know. It's one of those where the pastor gets up and is like, I'm gonna be a little vulnerable, and you all are like, oh, this is gonna be a good one. So, the Article 2, the passing of Article 2, the replacing of the principles with values, it has been controversial. as you can imagine. And it's sort of been framed because it is the values, they are explicitly more inclusive. They have language that says we will be explicit about our inclusion, and we will be explicit that we are a changing, transforming faith, and change is coming, and let's all deal with it together. And I really like that part. Some people had an issue with it, and that was the part that was controversial. So people started saying, like, these changes, they are going to be the way that we prove that we Unitarian Universalists are inclusive, justice-based people in the world. And I'm like, you guys can't do that with bylaws. And so it became controversial to question anything about Article 2, because if you questioned anything about Article 2, you were questioning that we were a justice-based, transformative people, which isn't what I was trying to do. But y'all, when they rewrote Article 2, they wrote my theology out of it. They wrote my theology out of Unitarian Universalism. You see, before, there was all kinds of language about we are connected through an interdependent web. There was language about a source of enduring mystery and wonder, but there was no language that said what the all-powerful ultimate force in the universe was. And now there is. Now there is. Love is the force that connects all of us and is in the center of our faith. And I know a lot of you are like, well, that's okay, right? Love. That's like pretty innocuous, love. And I'm like, exactly. I don't want love to be the center of my faith. I, in fact, don't want anyone to write language about what has to be at the center of my faith, because I'm looking at some of you, and we would name the thing that is at the center of our faith differently. And I always loved that about Unitarian Universalism, but now, no, it's love. There's no more you like nature and I like God. It's just all love, which is difficult for me, because for me, love it's a feeling. It's an action, which is great. It's necessary, but not sufficient for me. See, the thing is, I'm kind of a naturally cynical person. And I know a lot of you are looking at me going like, no, that does not track with my experience of you. You constantly seem pretty hopeful and optimistic. And I seem that way because I have deep faith that no matter what I'm feeling on any particular day, no matter how grumpy I am, no matter whether or not I act lovingly all the time or I feel lovingly toward humanity, I have faith that I and that you have purpose and deep worth, that we are all walking, wheeling miracles, whether we feel like it or not. And so, if you tell me that love is now the center of Unitarian Universalism, and it is not the center of my faith, can I be a Unitarian Universalist anymore? I've been struggling, y'all. I actually got up an email more than once to write out to Diana and Colleen at the two churches to say, I don't know how to lead through this. I don't feel like a UU anymore. So I don't know how I can be the minister of these congregations, these Unitarian Universalist congregations. I've been struggling. And I did not send that email. Something always pulled me back, and most recently, it was Eva. Eva said to me this month, "What you preaching on the 22nd, Rev?" And so I get into the Soul Matters package. Y'all know what Soul Matters is? It's the monthly theme, and this month it's invitation, right? And I start looking at all the readings and quotes and sermon seats, and it's all about putting love at the center. We're going to invite people in by putting love at the center. And I'm like, how am I supposed to preach on something about invitation that feels explicitly exclusive to me? How am I going to do this? And so Eva's like, okay, I need to make my story. What are you preaching about? And I'm like, I don't know, girl. I don't have it. Can you just like make something up? And she's like, yeah, okay. I'll do a classic. I'll do Philomene and Bacchus. It's just an invitational tale as old as time. No problem. And I was listening to it, and I was like, you know what? That's true, those messages. When I reread it for the service, those messages, those God shows up as the stranger messages, they are so good. They really hit, don't they? I know this for two reasons. I know because like every religion has one, right? Like the Muslims have one, the Buddhists have one, the Hindus have like 3. So you know they're good, right, if everybody's doing it. And 2, I know that they're good because I had my own explicit, transformative experience with God as a stranger stories. I did, except mine was Elijah. Mine was Elijah when he shows up as a beggar to the people, and it happened at my first ever Seder dinner. So I got invited to my in-laws' house before they were my in-laws for a Seder dinner. And y'all, I don't think that there's many people more different than me than my in-laws. I am a whimsical, loud, fat girl from Detroit who has a learning disability that makes reading seem tedious. They are rational, pleasant, very well-behaved scholars from Ann Arbor. And so they invited me to my first ever Seder dinner in their home, and I showed up, and I was uncomfortable. I was so uncomfortable. One, because I was worried about all the cultural differences between us. I didn't know them very well. 2, because I could not sing in Hebrew. And 3, I was physically uncomfortable because their dining room chairs, which we sat at for like 3 hours, were these slender mid-century modern deals that had arms that were digging into me the entire time, reminding me that people that look like me do not often sit at their table. I was uncomfortable. And then Elijah showed up. I'm not kidding you. There's this moment in the ceremony, in the ritual, where you lay out a cup for Elijah to drink. And this particular year, my mother-in-law says, oh, I forgot. And she runs to the front door, and she cracks it open, and she says, we're supposed to leave the door open for Elijah to get in at this part. And then she said something that changed my life forever. She sits back down and she goes, I hope he remembers to take his shoes off. And all of a sudden, this palpable image of Elijah walking through that door showed up. And I'm not talking like Elijah, prophet, slayer of evil kings. I'm talking about Elijah, the beggar, the wanderer, the man who does not have access to hygiene products, walking through the front door of my mother-in-law's immaculate house, traipsing dirt on her pristine rug. Elijah. And then I imagined that that man sat down at the table right next to this loud, fat, quasi-Christian girl that her son was saying he was gonna marry. And then I thought, maybe I'm not the only one uncomfortable here. I had been sitting in my own experience. Because here's the thing, I come from a faith tradition that teaches me to center my individual experience and right of conscience, which, by the way, is a really understandable reaction to Puritanism. I get it. But they came from a faith tradition that said, you gotta leave the door open and see what comes in and sit with it. Most traditions have a way that we come together, that we lean into each other when we disagree and when times are hard. And it feels like Unitarian Universalism's tradition is to argue with each other and leave. And here's the thing, I always thought that it was so easy to leave Unitarian Universalism because there was no demand on your eternal soul. You know, nothing's gonna happen. We don't have eternal punishment to threaten you with. But neither does the Jewish faith. Neither does the Jewish faith, and when things get rough over there, they don't leave. Heck, my father-in-law is now an avowed atheist, but he is still doing Seder every year. And I think maybe what they have on us is not a threat of damnation, but just thousands of more years of the experience that when the world gets cruel, and it will, that we need each other, regardless of what the rabbis are saying about the Talmud this century, that we need each other. And then that we are not individuals on our own faith journey, but that we are a people together wandering. And then it occurred to me that the story of the Spirit showing up as an outsider, it's not just a wisdom tale. It's not just a wisdom tale about what it means to be welcoming. Because if it was, it would remain in children's books, right? And it's in like religious texts everywhere. What I think it is, it's a deeper invitation to invite in that which is uncomfortable for you, to invite in that which is unfamiliar, to invite that in which seems like it is other, and sit it at your table and wrestle with it, because if you do that, there's going to be deeper self-awareness and learning and growth, and my favorite part about Article 2, which is transformation. We are in a moment of deep, deep change, and our religion is asking us in this moment to no longer be victims of change, but to be co-conspirators of evolution. Our religion is asking us to be accomplices in the transformation that happens when you sit with what you are not always used to, that which disquiets you, that which makes you uncomfortable. And y'all, I don't want to. It would be easy to leave. I've thought about it. Except I'm like genetically you. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't choose this faith. And so I look around and I see my people, and I'm struggling. And I don't know how to get from love is at the center of your faith to where I need to be. But I know that in this faith, I don't always have to know what comes next. I don't always have to be the leader. It doesn't need to be me that has the words and the theology. So I'm looking around and wondering if maybe you can all help me. I've got a sermon set on the calendar for February called Love in the Center. I don't know what I'm going to say or how I'm going to get there. I don't, but I know that we're in these deep, uncomfortable times as a community and as a world, and I know that I'm sick of spending all my time at church talking about structure and conflict and staffing. And I want to talk to you all, which is really important, and thank you, Bylaws Revision team, you're amazing. But I know I want to talk to you about what you think about Article 2. What do you think love at the center means? What do you think we should do as a people agreed upon when we are hurting and need to reach out to one another? I want to know what you need, and I want to be able to tell you what I need, and I want to talk about love and commitment and joy and what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist. Do you think that maybe together we can find ways to reach inward, whether it's love or God or nature or whatever in the center, or maybe it's enough for it just to be us for a while? Do you think we could reach inward and find ways to talk to each other and help each other out and build community, even though it's hard and weird and uncomfortable? Because the tradition we make, it's living, it's right now, it's here in this room. And looking around today, that makes me feel a little optimistic. Blessed be an amen. Would you rise and join me in singing our final hymn, which I'm sure Michael will put up. This little light of mine.
We will now extinguish our chalice. Please repeat after me. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of hope.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of hope.
The warmth of community.
The warmth of community.
Or the fire of commitment.
Or the fire of commitment.
These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. So I go to Seder dinner at my in-laws every year now. And there's been a lot of deep discussions. There's been a couple of fights. I'm sorry? There's, you're ahead of me, Bob. You're ahead of me. Hold on, give me 1 second. But like, no, come on. Y'all know I love it when you yell out. Come on. Thank you, Bob. But there have been a couple of fights, and last year, and it isn't always perfect. When is family perfect? But last year, when everything fell apart for me and my husband got sick and my dad had a stroke and my mom fell and broke 3 bones all in the same month, I couldn't have gotten by it without them. I could not have gotten by without them. And so now when I go to Seder dinner, I know I'm just accepting there's going to be some cultural mismatches, and I've learned to sing in Hebrew a little bit. And my father-in-law, who loves nothing better than order and symmetry, has taken the arms off of the chairs, or one of the chairs in his dining room, so I'll always have a seat at the table. But I had to be uncomfortable first before we could get there. I think we're on the verge of something beautiful in this world. We're talking about racial justice and trans liberation in ways that I can't even have begun to dream about 15 years ago. But it's going to be uncomfortable. In the meantime, things are going to change. So I say, be the person who sits with the discomfort. Welcome Elijah in. And always know your neighbor might be sitting with that discomfort too, and offer them grace. Grace for ourselves and for each other. Can we do it? Amen. Go in peace and return in love.
Wildflowers growing, for we are part of all that is within life's river flowing. We open hands, receive and share the gifts of God's creation, that all may have abundant life in every earthly nation. With bodies shiver in the night, and weary wait for morning, when children have no bread but tears, and war horns sound their warning. They call humanity to wake, to join in common labor, that all may have abundant life in oneness with our neighbor. We all humanity to join as partners in creating a future free from want and fear, life's goodness celebrating. The new world beckons from afar, invites our shared endeavor, that all may have abundant life and oneness with our neighbor.